Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast. Now, I'm joined today with Al Hoffman and Gary Carpenter. Our podcast will give you the real world guidance you need to help your student graduate from college without running into massive debt. Now, today we're going to be diving into one of the most powerful yet frequently misunderstood parts of the scholarship process, and that's the letters of recommendation. Now, these letters don't just support the student, they sell the student to a committee who hopes their investment pays off. And the right letter can be the difference of being put into the maybe stack or into the yes, absolute stack. So let's talk about what makes a letter great, who your student should ask, what to give that recommender, and how the family can help appropriately. So, Al, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can get us started. You're going to be doing the most of this during the podcast because you probably run into this more than what Gary and I have. So take it over.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, this is one that I am not asked enough. I'm very glad that we're covering this particular issue. It's a lot of parents think a recommendation letter just confirms your student's grades or um, or membership, club memberships. But transcripts and resumes do that. And notice I said resumes because transcripts, everybody's aware of that. And resumes are something that you create, but I do believe that they're quite different than the letter of recommendation. So a great letter of recommendation is going to make the student feel real and look bigger and better than they are, three-dimensional, bigger person, a deeper person, a 5,000-foot view of person instead of a 30,000. So it really gets into the nitty-gritty of how the person feels and how they operate. And of course, it shows character and illustrates passion and follow through. I mean, the things that are all mentioning here are going to be right into the area of leadership, provides adults, proves adults believe in your student and their future success. So that's big picture. Let's kind of go a tiny bit deeper. The think about it this way. The resume says what your student has done, but the letter of recommendation explains who they are while they're doing it. You always hear journalists say, and how do you feel? Well, this is the kind of how do you feel type of depth of stuff. Okay, choosing the right recommender is important. You may have a personal friend as a teacher or a coach or a principal or vice principal, but that may not be the right person to choose. Your student should pick someone who knows them well. Okay, so that qualifies for the friend. Okay, but could tell specific stories. So how deep do they know you? And believes in them without hesitation. It is kind of like immediate gratification to, yes, I will do this. Maybe finish the sentence. Can you help me with the letter of regam? And they say yes. So that kind of energy is what you're looking for. A junior year teacher, examples of good recommenders. A junior teacher that they've seen recent effort at your high school level, and a coach or music director for the talent-based awards, a worker, volunteer, supervisor if leadership is the focus. And here's where I just want to give you a warning, parents. Let them do it. Don't get too big and stuck on chasing big titles. A principal who is the big title of the school may just give a generic letter, and believe me, they get asked so often. So the committee can smell them a mile away. So you really want to make sure that you don't just choose the big title people, senators and stuff like that. If you truly know them, okay, that's fine. But that is what I'm talking about, the big titles. Match the recommendation or recommender to the scholarship. In other words, here's where you need to look at, okay, am I going to ask an English teacher to do a STEM recommendation or vice versa? Okay, so no, you wouldn't want to do that. You want to stay in your lane, stay in your area. The student should ask, um, with probably a month, maybe even 6 weeks ahead of the deadline. Now, you don't just ask and then leave it be. You got to ask and follow through. So you ask in person when possible. And then when if the teacher hesitates, then just gracefully back off and find someone else. That's what I was talking about earlier. Are they energetic about doing this for you? If they are, then that's a good one. And if they are now committing to do it, then you have handed off your future to some degree, small degree, but significant enough to be worried about, to somebody else. So you need to follow through. To follow through means I need to look at that teacher and actually come back to them about 2 weeks or a week before and just ask for status and verify in your mind's eye that the letter of recommendation is out the door. The packet should be helped out a little bit. In other words, I'm going to want to tell the person that I'm asking the recommendation for the purpose of the scholarship, the criteria of the scholarship, the deadline of the scholarship, and the submission method. I want to make sure that the person that's going to help me knows the rules of the game that we're going after. Okay, it is definitely a challenge to do this carefully because you don't want to upset somebody. Think about it. If you have a senior class of 40, 50, 60, or maybe a couple of hundred people, that teacher may have 20 or 30 people to write. So you got to be careful how you ask, when you ask, and how you follow through. But if you'll think about it, you'll just say, okay, what would I do? What would I want? So short reflections in your own view, or a contribution that makes matters to others, a meaningful challenge, or how they grew. These are all highlights on a cheat sheet that you would give to this person. In other words, give them a little outline of what you believe you have accomplished so that they can follow through. Now, I already mentioned it ahead of time. You want to follow up, and of course, you also, when you know that it is out the door, you want to follow up with probably a nice card or at least a handshake, thank you, gratitude. Okay, don't just do it and let it go. Let them know that they helped and let them know that you appreciate that they helped. Send a friendly reminder before the deadline, confirm the confirmation, and then thank them. Okay, then thank them. Most of the scholarships that are based on your grades and your standardized test scores are not going to need a letter of recommendation, but that is not all. So when they do need them, these are the things that I would like you to reflect on that I just covered today. Gary, you want to add anything to that?
Just a couple of things, Al, and I think you covered this very well, by the way. And I'm a guy on the outside working with the numbers, and I don't get involved in it this much. But I have come across a couple of cases, and I'd just like to share them with everyone. There's a student, he was working with a part-time, he was working with a nonprofit after school and sometimes before school. And he was into computers and software, and they were talking to him, and it seems that they had a website up and running, but when they went to do a presentation, it crashed in the middle of the presentation. And so the student said, "Let me take a look at it. I had a little experience, see what I can do." So they said, "Okay, go ahead." And sure enough, he started coming in early in the morning, working on it. After school, he'd work on it and everything. And he solved the problem so that the website was now functional, and the nonprofit could use it for their mission. Now you say, okay, what was that all about? Well, he was applying to college. He was wanting to go into computer software, and he asked the teacher to write a letter of recommendation, which he was more than happy to do. And she did. He ended up getting a scholarship almost worth $8,000. So, you know, again, I think it comes back to these committees want to know, they want the story. They don't want the statistics. They've got all the statistics they need. They want some real life exposure. And this is where you have a chance to do it. Another student was a music student, and he was very good at what he did. And he came in on his own and didn't ask for any permission. He just, got some other kids together that were in the band, needed some help, and he would come in at 6 o'clock in the morning before school started, and he'd have a MIDI, practice session, helping these students become better musicians. He asked for a letter of recommendation from the music teacher, and sure enough, he ended up walking away with a scholarship worth about $5,000. So again, those are examples of, the types of things you want to present in these letters of recommendations. This goes back to the outline Al was talking about. Outlines are very important. You just say, hey, will you write me a letter? Okay, I'll write you a letter. What do you want to talk about? You got to give them some guidance, some direction here. So I'm just going to go over 3 quick items I want you to remember. And Al's touched on these already, but I think they're very important. Ask the right person who knows you as a student and knows you as an individual also. Provide them with information, a guideline, an outline. Al called it a mini pack. Give them something that they can say, hey, this is where I'm going to go to school. This is going to major in. Can you help me as far as letter recommendation? And secondly, follow up. And I can't tell you how important that is, okay? When somebody takes the time to write a letter of recommendation for you, and whether it's successful or not, you want to go back and say thank you because they took time out of their day that they could be doing other things to help you. So this is where you want to acknowledge their help and to thank them. It's simple, but it's complicated. Chuck, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you, Al and Gary, for this great information. If you found this helpful, make sure that you share this episode with other family members that are facing college issues. And you can also share our website, www.prepareforcollege.com. That's prepare, the number 4, college.com. You can also share our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@ prepare for college. And remember, every dollar in scholarships that you may be able to receive is one less dollar you have to borrow. I'll see you all next week on our next episode, where we continue helping you and your students navigate the journey to college with confidence and without debt weighing you down. So take care and stay encouraged, and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.